today's video, oh my god, I am so excited to be making it. I have been wanting to make this video since my whole process began with this in April, so quite a while ago. I'm so glad I am finally sitting down and filming this because I finally have results, if that makes sense. And you'll understand at the end of the video why that doesn't really make sense. If you've stumbled upon this video, it is probably because you are doing your own research for the Disney Cultural Representative Program, or you've already applied and you want to see what kind of steps are next for you in the whole process. I'm going to let you know right now that this is the Canadian Cultural Representative Program application process for the 2018 year, and I'm going to talk about my entire process from researching the program all the way until finding out somewhat of a result. I'm making this video just to help people out if they are trying to find more research, find more information, because I found videos like these were super helpful for me at the beginning of my process, so I thought, why not just share a little bit of insight into my experience to help someone else. So if you already know what the DCRP is, or the Disney Cultural Representative Program, you can just go ahead and skip to this timestamp right here because I am going to do a quick little explanation of the program, but if you already know it, go ahead and skip to right there. If you are here on this video because you are starting to do your research and you don't really know what the program is, I'm going to link below the actual Disney internship and program website in the description. So please go check that out because that is where I got most of my information for like what the job actually entails. Later in January, I will be posting a tips video if you are interested in applying for the program. So definitely maybe hit the subscribe button because that video is coming within the next 2 months. So now, since you are starting your research, I'm just going to explain to you what the program is. Basically, what happens is you are applying to work at Epcot in Walt Disney World, which is in Orlando, Florida, for 1 entire year. Now, the only people who can apply for this program are people who are from the countries around the pavilions at World Showcase at Epcot. So that means, wait, let me look at my list. It's 11 countries. So it means Canada, Mexico, Japan, China, France, Morocco, Germany, Norway, Italy, the UK, the US, and Canada. At your pavilion, you will be given a role either in food and beverage or attractions or merchandise, because most pavilions have one of each of those. Also, there is KidCot, which is attached to attractions, I am fairly certain. While you work there for a year, you are living on Disney housing, just like the Disney College Program people. So you'll get to meet lots of cool friends. You get all the benefits of a Disney cast member, which means access to the parks and discounts, which is pretty cool. But mainly you are working at Disney for an entire year, and it is a big commitment. So do a lot of research and make sure this is something you really want to do because it is something that you need to dedicate yourself to 1000%. Once again, I am putting links to the actual Disney website down below with an even more in-depth explanation of the program if you want even more information, because that was super brief. So now onto my process. My entire process began in April. Once again, I am talking about my research process all the way until my results. So I started everything in April, and that was because school was ending for me, and I realized that in 1 year exactly, I would be done school entirely. Like, university would be over for me. I would have to go find an adult thing to do. So I thought, how can I run away to Disney and avoid all responsibility? Initially in April, I started doing all my research and just kind of looking for a application date to see if there was a rumored one online. Back at that time, I thought and believed that all the applications for all the pavilions open on the exact same day. That is not the case. For me at this time, I found a date that was July 13th. That was the rumored date that applications were going to open, and that was on the websites for all the UK applications. So I was like, okay, obviously Canada's going to open around the same time because I assumed all the pavilions opened applications at the same time. They don't, but July 13th was a pretty accurate date, I will give it that. So in April, when I found out that it was July 13th that the applications were opening, I was like, okay, I'm gonna put it off until May. I'll look at this again in May because I have exams I need to be doing, so put it on pause and waited. So in May, I decided to start doing more research and actually starting to create a schedule for myself to make sure that I had a cover letter and resume, because that is something you need for this program and this application. If you apply with just a resume, it's very, very unlikely that you'll even get a contact back, because the cover letter is where you actually show how you apply the things on your resume to the Disney company, and it is crucial. So all throughout May, I focused on research and I began to write the first draft of my resume and my cover letter. I got through, I think, 2 versions of my cover letter and my resume through May. I was just making sure I used the right vocabulary and the right verbiage, just making sure that everything was perfect. And I also had people look it over a bunch for me, like different people each time, because I felt like new, fresh eyes really helped bring it to the next level. And that also continued all the way into June. So from May until June, I was just writing and rewriting my cover letter and resume. It's all I did all day, every day, which can get a bit daunting and can also make you question whether your application is good enough, but I promise the extra time will pay off. At the end of June, I had reached my 3rd draft of my resume and my cover letter, and I was feeling a bit better about it, and I was like ready to just apply already. But I knew I still had about 2.5 weeks until applications opened, or so I thought. And I was just like going by my days, not rushing to do my final cover letter. And all of a sudden, Heather Marie, if you don't know who that is, she is another Canadian YouTuber who does a lot of Disney stuff, and she's currently down there doing a DCRP. I'll link her below because she is incredible. She shared on her Instagram story that applications had opened on June 28th. So I started to freak out a little bit because I was not prepared whatsoever to apply the resume and cover letter that I actually had done. And one thing that is always said about the program is when applications open, you need to apply right away or as soon as possible, because a lot of people are always interested in this program, and the faster that you are able to apply, the easier it is for them to get to your resume. I was also really freaked out and panicked because I knew that I wasn't going to have the time to work on my resume or cover letter over the weekend because it was Canada Day weekend. So I was out of my house, away from my laptop, doing a whole bunch of other stuff and partying and having fun with my family, and I knew there's no time for me to sit down at a laptop and write out something like business-y. Is that the right word? I don't know. Something formal, I guess we should say. So I went on and I did my whole Canada Day weekend, and because I was seeing so much family and they knew I was going into my final year of school, they kept asking me about what I was doing after school, which was a good and a bad thing, because it was a good thing I was like having to think about it, but also a bad thing because then when I told them about Disney and they started telling me that it was like a perfect fit for me and that they were really starting to hype me up, I got really, really excited and really like confident in myself. I am someone who doesn't like to be overly confident about something or vocalize that I'm confident about it, because it only takes that one time that I say, oh, I'm awesome at this, that I mess up. So I was like, okay, thank you so much for the support, but I'm gonna just see how it goes. I'm not gonna bank on anything at the moment. But the second I got home from all my Canada Day fun with my family, I ran up to my room, grabbed my laptop, did a final edit of my cover letter and my resume, handed the laptop to my mom because she has worked for Disney before, and I said, can you just make sure that this is up to Disney standards? She gave it a quick read over, and then I applied. It was the most stressful 10 minutes of my life. So on actual Canada Day, July 1st, I applied to be the Canadian Cultural Representative at Epcot. Ding! I am someone who is very much attached to numbers, in the sense that anniversaries and dates and just like numbers are very They come up a lot in my life, and like it's not a coincidence that they're there. I don't believe it's a coincidence. I believe that there's a reason that they're there. So I like to make sure that I do important things on significant days. So I thought, well, if I'm applying to be a representative for my country in Disney World, I might as well apply on my country's birthday. So then this is where the process for me felt like forever. It felt like it was, I don't know, 7 years, but it was really 2.5 months. But it felt like the longest time of my life. So on July 1st, I applied. July 2nd, I moved to under review. And so if you don't know what the steps are for this program, or the application for this program, there are 5 steps. The first is applied, which means you've basically just applied to the program. The second step is under review, which means your application is being looked at by someone at Disney, and they'll be contacting you with more information later on. The third step is in consideration, which means that you are going to be contacted possibly for an online or phone interview, but the key word in this one is may. You may be contacted. It is not a guarantee, but it is a very important step, an exciting step to be on. The fourth step is interview, which means you are invited to the Disney offices in either Toronto or Vancouver, and you have an actual interview with people from Disney for the job. And the final step, of course, is offer, and that is when they offer you the role at Disney. As I previously said, July 2nd was when I moved to under review. I had heard a couple horror stories where people didn't even move to under review and they automatically went to no longer in consideration, or as you might see online, NLIC. This is kind of like the lingo term that people use. That just means you're no longer in consideration, but you can apply again in the future. So I was super excited when I reached under review. I felt a huge wave of relief come over me. And then I became the person who checks the Disney dashboard every single day. And you don't want to do that. That is my #1 tip. Don't do that. I know, easier said than done, but it's super important that you don't do that. All you'll do is stress yourself out, and that's not what you want to be doing, especially if you're applying in like the summer, because it's supposed to be a fun summer happy time, and you're just sitting on your laptop going refresh, 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 refresh. You don't want to do that. Then on July 19th, I moved from under review to in consideration, and it was quite the spectacle. Everyone was in bed. My parents and my brother were in bed, and I saw it. I just happened to check that night, and I was like, okay, let me check. I went on, and I was good. I had spent all week not looking, and I decided, you know what, I'll just go on and look. I did. I hit refresh, and it said in consideration for a phone interview or an in-person interview, and I started sobbing. I actually filmed my reaction. I went, and then I started crying, and I'm like, I could work at Epcot. And it's kind of cringy, but I love it at the same time. And so I ran around my house. I banged on my parents' door. I banged on my brother's door. I was like, look, look, look. It was like midnight, 1 in the morning. They all had stuff to be doing the next day probably, but I didn't care. I was on in consideration. For about a month, I sat on in consideration, and then I was coming back to Hamilton here where I live because it was near the end of August and school was starting up again, so I needed to move some stuff back into my house. And my mom and I stopped at the mall, and my phone started going crazy because there is a DCRP Facebook group and a Facebook Messenger group. So my phone was buzzing like crazy because people were getting interview emails. So I just looked over at my mom, said some curse words, and then I said, it's happening. And she went, okay, and she started filming me. It's a horrible video, but she started filming me, and I refreshed my email, and there's my email inviting me to interviews, and I cried. I was crying so much. It's still kind of a blur. I just remember it was raining like crazy. I was sitting in my car crying for a happy reason. I'm like, this is the opposite of everything. So on August 21st, I got my interview invitation and freaked out. When you get your email about the interviews, you basically have to rank all your choices. So merchandise, attractions, food and beverage, kid cot, that kind of thing. You rank them in the order that you want them. There's options to be ranked there for Animal Kingdom positions, but you're not eligible for those. It's just kind of like a general, the same generic thing that they send to everyone who applies to the program. So people who apply for the program in Animal Kingdom use the exact same kind of like ranking system as us. So just put not interested in Animal Kingdom positions, because you're not going to be able to work there unless you've actually applied to work for one of the countries there. So I ranked all my things and I chose my time. Interviews were on September 13th, and the panic set in for time to figure out what to wear, because you do get a whole bunch of information about Disney look too, and you need to dress in Disney look, which can be intimidating. But I did figure it out eventually. I wanted to film the morning of my interview before I went on the train, but I was like running late despite waking up at 4 in the morning. It was just a lot going on, and I was too stressed out and too freaked out, so I just didn't do anything. I barely even texted anyone that day. I was in such a, I'm nervous zone. So on September 13th, I made my way down to Toronto for my interview and panicked the whole time, but it was fine. I met a whole bunch of the girls that I had become friends with on the Facebook group, and that was really cool, getting to like meet them in person and talk to them and kind of get to know who I might be working with if I get the program. So we sat in the food court and ate some food and talked, and then we finally decided to head up to the offices in time for the presentation. And there's always a presentation before the interviews start, because you need to have all the information about the program before you actually interview, so that you have like a fuller, more understanding of, I don't know, the job itself, so that you're not like interviewing for a job that you're going to be like, oh, I don't want to do that for this, right? So it's important that you do that presentation. We got in there and we sat down, and the room was packed. There was about 32 people interviewing that day, though 40 invites had gone out, which was odd to see that some people didn't even show up. We also learned at the interviews that about 500 people had applied, so that means 40 of 500 got an interview in Toronto. It is also important to note that there are also more interviews in January, and they'll be happening in Vancouver, so it's not like only 40 of the 500 got interviews. There will be more people who get interviews as well coming up in the next month or two. After the presentation, I went back down to the food court and just kind of sat with people, because the presentation ended at about 11:30, 10:30, 11:30, and then I didn't have my interview until 2:30. So I just had to sit there and wait, and I was sitting with the other girls and watched as they would go up and get interviewed and then come back down and talk about it. And I don't think that was the greatest for me, because then I was comparing what my experience it was with their experience. But it was fun to sit with people who understood the stress you were going through and felt the exact same way as you. It was pretty fun getting to talk like Disney, but also just general life with people. So it was a nice time. It kind of alleviated a bit of the stress of just sitting and waiting there, because I was worried I was just gonna sit there all day by myself, and that would not have been good for my anxiety. Then 2:30 rolled around, but I headed up at 2 because I knew I wanted to get there early enough to like sit and wait and prep. You also have to like sign into the room and all this kind of stuff, so you gotta get there earlier. And then I sat and waited, and this is the part of my process where I still feel really bad about it, or not that confident about it, because of how it went down. But there were 2 people who were interviewing. There was Sue, who's kind of like the head of everything. She was very intimidating. She interviewed me, of course. And then there was Kiki, who was in charge of all food and bev, either at just the Canadian pavilion or all the pavilions in Epcot, but definitely Canada. The interview process is you and your interviewer on one side of the room and someone and another interviewer on the other side of the room. So it's just like 2 interviews happening at the same time. We were all sitting in a room waiting to be called in for our interviews, and the girl who went in before me was doing food and beverage, so she got interviewed by Kiki. Then I was called in. The girl who was interviewing with Kiki went in before me and sat down, and then I went in with Sue and sat down, and I was done my interview before that other girl had finished her interview. And that scared me, because that shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have been that quick of an interview. If I could go back, I would have talked about myself more. I would have done more, because I think I would have benefited from that a bit more. I don't know. I just don't feel the most confident about my interview, despite my outcome. I still wish I could have done more and done better in my interview, because I don't think I showcased myself very well. But because of the stress of the day after my interview, I went down to the food court again went into the bathroom and just sobbed. I cried. I was like, I blew it. That's it. I'm done. I now have to find an actual adult job. So I was upset, but my mom came and we went to see a TIFF movie, so I was feeling better after that. And then something crazy happened the next day. People got acceptances and offers. So September 14th, not even 24 hours after interviews had happened, people were getting acceptances. And there were a lot of us just freaking out. We're like, what the heck is going on? And everyone was expecting an email, but it was mostly people who had a January or February start date who got those emails just because they need to get the visa process going on really early. Then 5 days later on September 19th, we all got our thank you for interviewing emails, which basically said, thank you for interviewing, we really appreciated it, and you'll be hearing from us sometime soon. There were a few acceptances on the 19th, and I believe on the 20th and the 21st as well, and all those acceptances went up until July, and as of right now, we have not had any acceptances past July. It's been from January to July. Those have been the acceptances or offers given out, but they do have positions available all the way until November, so what I believe is going to happen is they will do the interviews in Vancouver in January, and then after that start rolling out all the acceptances for July to like the end of July to November. Like I said, there are more acceptances on the 19th, 20th, and 21st of September, so like not even a week after our interview process. I was feeling so negatively about my experience or my interview just because I felt like I didn't do my best, that I had basically convinced myself that I wasn't going to get it. And I lived in a negative bubble for like what felt like 4 months, but it was really 3 weeks. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you feel that not best or not the most confident in your interview, do not let it get you down. Focus on what you can do better the next time you interview and the next time you apply, and try to keep a positive spin on it. After the 21st, there weren't very many other acceptances, 21st of September, and it was just kind of silent. So then for the next couple weeks, I decided to just tune Disney out because I said July was my start time that I could start because I have graduation and all this other stuff that I need to do first. And when I saw that the last date that they gave out was July and nothing else was happening, I was like, okay, I'm not going to hear for a while. And I decided to just like leave it and let it go and be in a better mood. Thanksgiving was coming up, so I was like, you know what, I just need to let it go. I hate that reference. I can't believe I just did that. I decided to just move on and focus on everything else. I had a lot of schoolwork going on, so I focused on that instead. And then on October 4th, I was sitting in class and I'm working on a show right now, so I was sitting with my production team and there was kind of a lull in the conversation, and I was like, oh, let me just check my emails, see what's going on. And I refreshed it, and then a little email, I'll show you what I did exactly. I'm recording on my phone. Look at me looking for my phone. I'll show you what I did. This is my fake phone. So I'm holding it, and I see the little star, because I have all my Disney emails starred, so I know that it's something important. I see the little star, and I slam my phone down on the table, and I went, I got an email from Disney. And one of my best friends who was sitting next to me, she was like, do you want me to read it? I was like, no, I'll do it. I'm sure it came off very differently. I'm sure it was like, no, I'll do it. But just because I was panicked in that moment. And I turned it over and I opened it and it said, thank you for interviewing. And I was like, oh no, this is a rejection letter. And it's like, thank you for your interest in the program. And I got really, really low. And then all of a sudden it said, we would like to keep you on the wait list. And I freaked out. I started crying. I reeled it in quite a lot because I was in front of like people that I'm going to be working with the whole year, and I didn't want to cry in front of them. That was a little weird to do, especially when it was like the third time we had officially met. So I kind of reeled it in, and I just like let my eyes water a little bit, and then I had to focus on classes for the rest of the day. It didn't go well. But I was just so excited because I was officially on the wait list. If you don't know what the wait list is, basically Disney likes you, they want you, they just don't have a spot for you yet. And I'm kind of using the explanation that Baby Beazle gives. She is another Disney Cultural Representative Program YouTuber, though it's been quite a while since she did her program. and she did document it on YouTube. It's so good, so funny, love watching it. I'll link her below. And she was put on the wait list, and that's how she explained it, is that Disney likes you, you're a perfect fit for them, but they just don't have a spot for you yet. So you're on the wait list. And I think she was on the wait list for 8 or 9 months. So I am planning on being here for quite a while. Just this past weekend, I've reached 1 month on the wait list. It was very exciting, and I was headed home the very next day, and my best friend Samantha was coming down. I did a vlog of the whole week that she was here, and I wanted to hold it in. Like, it wasn't even going to be 24 hours until I saw my parents and I saw Samantha, and I could tell them. I just couldn't keep it in. I called them and I cried so much. It was embarrassing, but it was just because I hadn't like admitted it out loud. Like, I hadn't said, I'm on the Disney wait list. So when I said it out loud, I just started sobbing, and it was so embarrassing. I filmed it too, and I hate the video. I'm like, this is so bad. This is so embarrassing. And I told Samantha too, and she was super excited, and we kind of got to celebrate while she was here. So it was fun and exciting, and it was a very nice turn of events. And then, of course, as soon as I got home, I had to make myself a little CRP waitlist button, and I even wrote on the back, October 4th, 2018 is the date that it happened. Super exciting and so cute. I'm so happy with it. I want to wear it. I wear it around all the time. People will be like, wow, how long have you been on the wait list? It's been 84 years. But yeah, that is my entire process. This is a long video. I'm so sorry, though all my videos are long. Are we even shocked? If you have any questions at all, if you can message on YouTube, message me on YouTube. If not, my Instagram and my Twitter are both down below. You can message me there or comment. I will answer all the questions you need, like, answered. I will try my best. Even if it's like something super simple and it could be Googled, I'll Google it for you and answer it for you. I'm here to help. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative. I hope that if you are in the process of applying, that you are feeling good about it. And if you are in the process of research, please, please, please apply for this program. It is an incredible experience. You will not regret it. It's going to be so much fun when I get down there, and I don't know, there's very rare times, if it works for you and your schedule, there's very rare times that you can just stop your life for a year and go play in a park. So I think it's super important to apply for this program, get that experience, also work experience. Disney is like an incredible company to have on your resume too. That is it from me today, though. I am gonna go to class now because it is almost time for me to leave. I will be back next Thursday with another video at 2 p.m. Bye!